Good afternoon, everybody. We are back on Career Path 101, and I am Enzo again, and we have Jordan Gillespie with us today. Hi, Jordan.
Hello.
Jordan is in Alabama, right?
Yes, that's right.
Right. She's attending her doctoral program at Auburn University, and Jordan graduated in 2018, right?
Yeah, in the winter.
Right, and she was a student from 2015 to 2018 for the Zoo and Wildlife program at BJU. So you can already tell that she was able to graduate a little earlier.
Just
right?
a little. But that was because of the academy. So
Just the academy.
Credit.
Right. But don't let this deceive you. Even though she was able to finish her studies a little earlier, that doesn't mean she didn't add anything on top of the standard curriculum. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have her today with us, because she worked through her curriculum as she was going through college in a very intense and in a very intentional way. And that proved to be a very good choice. And it's been a learning process for her, but also a learning process for us, faculty, as we saw her engaging in so many different things. And all of these pieces have come together to bring her where she's at right now. So Jordan, welcome again. And just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how you decided to enroll in a Zoo and Wildlife program, what you wanted to do when you were growing up, how your passion started for the Zoo and Wildlife, and then we go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up loving animals from the very beginning, and I kind of thought I wanted to be a vet, but I knew vet school was really hard. And so I shadowed a few vets, and I basically came up with the idea that I wasn't really interested in taking care of sick animals, but I knew I really liked animals. So I was encouraged to do biology, specifically the Zoo and Wildlife biology program. And so I kind of started in that and knew, I was interested in what was going on. I just didn't really know where I was heading with that. And then the more interactions I actually had with Dr. Carmichael, I just saw some of the research that he was able to do, and I just thought that was really interesting. But I knew that I kind of really wanted to do hands-on research, and I really love dogs, and just being able to work with them. I had several interactions with them from just jobs that I held and doing stuff like that, volunteering at the animal shelter. And so I kept talking to him, just saying, what is the best thing for me to do? Because I don't really know where I go from this, but I know I want to do research, and I know I want to work with dogs. And he said the best thing for me to do would be to start looking into experimental psychology programs. And I didn't even know where to start with that, because that's, totally different than biology, and I didn't really know how those would connect. But I kind of just started trying to connect the two fields, and I knew that biology is very research heavy, and so is psychology. So I kind of just started merging the two interests and using my experience from the biology program doing research and kind of just transitioning fields to behavior research and doing psychology. And so through that, I was really able to get a lot of experience. And that's kind of how I ended up where I am today.
So you already mentioned your interaction with Dr. Carmichael, who is one of the faculty in the biology program at BJU. But was there a discussion, a specific discussion you had with him, or a specific class you were taking, or a project that just opened up and really sold you into this field?
Yeah.
Because you came from a broad understanding of Zoo and Wildlife. How did you narrow down? So what was the sparking moment?
Yeah, I guess I think I'm trying to remember back, and I'm pretty sure it was actually ecology, which is interesting enough. But I think it was because Dr. Carmichael was kind of talking through some of the research that he did in his degrees, specifically with that really cool lizard. I can't remember what it was called, but he was kind of talking through that. And so, I just I caught him after class, and I said, I think this is so cool. Like, I want to do this, but I want to do it with dogs. And I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. And that's kind of when he told me, because I told him, I was like, I think I'm interested in going into animal behavior. And he said, I think you would actually do better in experimental psychology. And that was kind of the turning point for me, because I wouldn't have known to go into experimental psychology and look at psychology programs if it hadn't been for him. And then probably another turning point was actually with working at the University of Pennsylvania at the Penn Vet Working Dog Center, the postdoc that's there doing a lot of the research. She came from a psychology program as well. So that kind of helped me learn how to do that. So that's where it kind of got me, in a good place going from there.
All right. I think you see the screen. I think
I think this is-
this is the program, right?
yes, this is the
Tell us
program.
a little bit because before getting there, you volunteered and you interned at the zoo, right?
I
And there
did,
was
yeah.
a
Mhm.
hands-on kind of activity. So how did you get to find out about this program, and what was the experience of going through this summer long, right?
Yeah, so this was a summer long program. As Dr. A, as you said, that I was at the zoo before that. So the summer before I was at Penn, I was at the Greenville Zoo, and that was a really great experience because I was so fascinated in working with exotic animals, and I knew I really loved dogs, but I could not for the life of me find a really good dog internship program. So I kind of fell back on the Greenville Zoo, and I, did that and enjoyed it. But after that, I was like, I still really want to work with dogs, and I think it was just a ton of research. I honestly think it was some website I found that was saying really good dog internships, and I found the Penn Vet Working Dog Center in their program, and they really are a very interesting program because very few dog training facilities provide hands-on summer internship programs for students. But this program specifically runs on their volunteers. They need them there, and the application process and the interview process for that was really great. And going there was really honestly life changing because I didn't really know specifically what capacity I wanted to work with dogs, but after this, it was just so informative and so life changing. Honestly, to work with these dogs and these people, they're super super smart and they love what they do. So.
So what was your experience like interacting with those specialists?
So it was really great because they have this summer program and they know how important these volunteers and interns are for their program. They pour a lot of time and energy into us. So I was paired up specifically with one trainer. Her name was Elena, and we had a group of dogs that we worked with. And so that just was my whole summer. We worked as groups, but then we worked specifically with our individual dogs. And I had one dog I worked with. Her name was Moxie, and she was training for search and rescue. And so I got to do that. I got to help her train for scent work, finding people on Rebel. But I also got to do obedience and agility and all of that. So they guide you the whole way because these trainers know they can't do the work by themselves, and so the more they train us, the better they are to free themselves up to do the work that they need to do. So they put in the time because they know we're valuable.
Hmm.
So
So now, you obviously the University of Pennsylvania it's a large research university. What was the experience like from the research side? Because I'm assuming it was not just a basic training kind of experience.
right. Yeah. So it's really interesting because their training program at Penn Vet is much bigger than the research program as of right now, although the research is very much alive and they have a lot of projects that they're working on, but they require a lot more people for the training side of things.
Mhm.
But what was really great is that as the summer went on, kind of really got to be a part of basically doing a bunch of the research. So I started to interact with the research team. They have an ovarian cancer detection study that been going on for several years, and they have some other ones going on right now. Currently, they're working on detection for coronavirus, which is pretty cool. So I kind of started to basically wedge my way into that team because it's a much smaller team, so they don't have as many people involved in that. But as the summer went on, I just expressed my interest in the research, and they allowed me to kind of help out with them doing data collection. And that's really what kind of helped me actually after I graduated to be able to be offered the research assistant position there. So after I graduated in December, I was able to go back in January and work with them for about 8 months, specifically in the research program. So
Right. And if I recall correctly, you got something out of that experience too, right?
I did. Look at that, my research.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about your research.
Yeah, so it was a really great project. It's actually something I worked on for my senior thesis when I did the independent research study. And basically what we did is we looked at a lot of videos for these dogs. We do several different behavioral tests. So this one looks at hunt and drive specifically. So we look at different ways that the dogs hunt for toys. And what we did is we kind of coded the videos for different behaviors, and we stuck it into a really cool statistical model that basically looks at the highest probability of success in various careers and what different behaviors lead to success in that career. So it's was a pretty cool project. I'm really glad we're able to do it. And actually they're continuing to expand it. We have the research assistant that's at Penn now is working on a different behavioral test that we do, and we're going to combine them all into one paper. So it should come out hopefully in the next couple of months or so, and we'll get a nice publication out of that.
You were able to present the results also at a national conference, right? Beside the paper that's coming along the way.
Yes, at the Jump Discovery Summit. I also presented it at the Animal Behavior Society in Chicago, and then at the Canine Science Conference in Arizona. So 3 conferences I was able to present at. This one specifically was the Jump Discovery Summit, and that was a really interesting one because I was actually able to get a lot of feedback on my statistical analysis, and so that was really, really great.
Yeah, that sounds really, 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 really interesting, because there we go. You come from a zoo and wildlife background, and as you go through the process, you realize that you have an interest in psychology and behavioral science of animals. And there we go. On top of that, you are connecting also statistics. So it just sounds like a great mix for you, since you want to stay in research. So I want to ask you a little bit now, how all these experiences, so the zoo and wildlife experience at BJ, your interning opportunities with training, and your passion for animal behavior and psychology, and there we go, the stats helped you to get into the program that you are pursuing right now, which is a doctoral degree from Auburn University, which is this one, right? Cognitive and Behavioral Science program. So tell us how all these pieces came together and helped you as you were applying and seeking for this program.
Yeah, so I think really some of the big game changers in my undergrad degree at Bob Jones was the animal behavior class with Dr. Carmichael, and I've already mentioned how he was very helpful in kind of directing me into the place I needed to be looking at for programs. So that class was specifically helpful. The stats class was also very helpful because that gave a really good introduction to ANOVA and t-test and all of those things. So when I came into my stats class in my grad degree, I had a really great basis to know what was going on, and was able to understand everything that was being taught in the class. Because stats is very much something we do, even when we're looking at behavior research, even if we're not measuring levels of certain things like you maybe would in a biology, you can still measure behavior and you still have to be able to analyze it. So, and then as far as like my interning at Penn, that was really great because it gave me a lot of hands-on experience working with dogs, how research with dogs looks compared to research with exotic animals, which is what I had previously had a lot of experience with. So it looks very different. And so having that experience and knowing how to research and do it well with dogs specifically was very helpful. And I think that was extremely helpful from my Penn experience, and all of that leading into the classes I was able to take at Bob Jones, and the experience I had with researching there and also at Penn really was what helped me get into my graduate degree at Auburn. So
give us a little bit of some highlights, some insider views about the program at Auburn University. What are some hot spots in the program? So what's the program known for?
So I think the program it's really known for the diversity of different research aspects. So we have the cognitive and behavioral science program as a whole, but all of the advisors and professors that work in that program have very varying interests. So my advisor, Dr. Jeffrey Katz, he does a lot with comparative cognition. So that's where I'm able to work with a lot of different animal models, but some of the other professors work strictly with human models, but they do a lot of different things with that. We have one that's looking at cannabis use and how that affects brain use and neuroimaging, and another that's looking at alcohol use, and then another that just does language acquisition, and quite a few others as well. So really the variety of people and research kind of focuses that I get to work with is really interesting because there can be a lot of collaboration between fields. And one of the really great things at Auburn is that we have a huge MRI research center that specifically one of the scanners is not FDA approved yet. So what's really great about that is that we get to use it strictly for research purposes. So, and that's given us a lot of access. With Dog Lab, we actually are able to do unrestrained imaging of dogs, which is only being done at a couple of labs around the world. So just kind of the collaboration between the vet school and the dogs that they have there at Canine Performance Sciences, which are the detection dogs that they train. And then kind of merging that with all of the technology that they have at Auburn has provided really, really great research impact. So that was the main thing that drove me to Auburn, was their Canine Performance Sciences and all of the great people they have there. And then also just the really great research minds. Dr. Katz is one of the best experimental designers that I've met. He just knows how to design a good experiment and how to do it and get the information we need from the animals. So it's been really, really great.
So you mentioned you're learning to use the MRI,
Yeah.
and you said for unrestrained behaviors. So how does it work?
So the dogs are taught to lay down in the scanner for a period of time. So the hardest thing with that is getting them to lay still, because they can do a downstay, but having them do it for an extended period of time, and then also basically getting them adjusted to the environment, because it's a very small tube and it's very loud. So it's not an environment that they're used to. So there's a lot of training that's been done, and the people that work at Auburn have been able to do that successfully. So we have a couple of studies where we've been able to do unrestrained imaging of dogs in the scanner, which is really, really cool.
Do you investigate the brain or other organs? So what are
Yeah.
some researches that you have done?
So I haven't been able to be on any projects recently. I know that I think hopefully getting ready to work on one, which will be really great. But we have one girl in our lab that actually left with her master's. You can see her right there, Lily. She did her master's thesis on different training aspects for dogs with MRI, trying to look at which one's the most effective. And I'm not familiar with any of the specific ones because they've all been done before me. So apart from the one that's getting ready to go now, they've just been able to look at different types, they do different types of cognitive tasks. So they ask the dog different questions while they're in the scanner, and then they look at how the brain responds to that.
I see. It's interesting. Now, I also love dogs. I was wondering, do you do this kind of studies on one specific species? Excuse me. One specific breed, or
Yeah.
it's really across the border?
So with the dogs at Canine Performance Sciences, they are all pretty much Labrador retrievers. There's a few wire hair terrier mixes in there, but many of their lines are strictly Labrador retriever now. And those dogs are bred specifically to be high drive so that they can function well and work well. They have high motivation, high toy drive. So they're really a select breed of Labrador retrievers. But then we are getting ready to do some pet studies. And so those are going to be much more, they have much more variety in breed. So we kind of just take whatever we can get with that, and we accept the fact that breed is a confounding variable in that sense. But we're very, very privileged to be able to work with a select population of dogs that has not only similar upbringing, but also very similar genetics. So the way they respond to certain situations should be pretty much the same.
So you gave us a very precise and detailed overview about the field of research you are in. So you give us also some insider perspective concerning the technologies and the methodology. Can you tell us now about the application of these kind of studies?
Yeah, so what really drove me to this field was the cross kind of impact between animals and humans. So I knew that I really wanted to work with animals, but I also knew I really like helping people. And so I didn't want my field of research to only be kind of just focused on learning about animals. I wanted to figure out how I could kind of use animals to help people. And so what's really great about this field is that these dogs specifically are trained for detection work. So whether that's it's specifically at Penn, we worked with dogs that were trained to detect drugs, explosives. Some dogs were trained to find people in disaster situations. So the dogs at Auburn are mainly trained to do explosive detection, but have been trained to do other things as well. They have an ecological detection, so dogs that can find invasive species. And so really just a lot of application. Like I mentioned, that they're training dogs to detect coronavirus. So, and the dogs that I worked with could detect cancer. So just a lot of impact there on how we can learn more from dogs about things that affect people and how we can help people with these dogs. So that's really a lot of the application from that, is using this research to figure out how we can make better dogs, learn what makes them successful. There's yeah, a little bit of an image of the dogs in the MRI scanner right there.
Right.
So it's very cool.
My dog would never be able to even stretch that position. So you mentioned this already a couple of times, COVID-19. So how does the detection take place? Based on what kind of cue is the dog capable of detecting the virus?
So I'm not sure how they're doing coronavirus specifically, but I know with cancer, what we did is we took different plasma samples. And so we would have cancerous plasma samples and then benign. So they came from like a tumor specifically. And so benign cancer samples and then normal. So it'd be normal blood plasma. And we train the dogs to differentiate between the three samples to the point where they can learn that the cancer sample has a specific odor profile that is different from the normal and benign. So I assume they're doing something similar for the coronavirus research. I'm not sure exactly because I'm not up to date on what Penn's doing for that. I just know that they're working on it. So.
I see. That's surely very interesting. It's a very good. I mean, if you consider at some point airplanes are gonna start flying around again, and the airports are gonna become a hot spot. So having dogs with that kind of capability, it's definitely going to be a very helpful tool.
Yeah.
So as far as skills and abilities that you need to have in order to succeed in the field you are in, so what would you say are some key abilities, key skills that somebody who is interested needs to start cultivating?
Yeah. I think you definitely need to be passionate about the animals, because if you're not, then there's really no point for being in the field. And you kind of have to demonstrate that to the people specifically that, you're applying for jobs and the programs. I know that like I would not have gotten my position at Penn if I hadn't demonstrated that I was as passionate about the work that they were doing as I had been while I was at my internship. So I think the biggest thing is just letting the people know that you work with that this is what you want to do. You're all in for it. And then I think you also really need to be, good at doing the research process. You need to know how to design a good experiment, and that's not going to come like automatically. I get so much input from my lab members and my advisor. So kind of learning how to design a good experiment and carry out good research is also really important. So those are kind of the two processes that you need to be really good at. Like, I wouldn't say, obviously you need to be able to do classes and you need to be able to learn well, but really the biggest things in this field is being passionate about the animals and wanting to work with them and knowing how to do good research. So.
What would you say were some challenges that you had to overcome when you started interning a pen vet? And then what are some other challenges that somebody who wants to get into a program like the one at Auburn University would expect to face?
Yeah, with Penn, it was difficult because I knew there was a lot of people applying. So I remember, applying, interviewing, and then reaching out to the woman that's in charge of picking the interns several times, letting her know, I really want this internship. I have other internships available. I have other offers, but I really, really want this one. And kind of just letting her know, like, I'm not just another name on the list. Like, I will be a good addition to your program, So that was one of the hardest things. Also, just adjusting to life far away from home. Philadelphia was a really long ways away. So kind of just learning how to live on my own in a really big city was a big learning curve. But I was, having a really great time doing what I was doing. So that was probably a pretty easy transition for that. For grad school, it was difficult because it's hard to know how to go about applying, specifically because I have such a limited field of research that I'm interested in, kind of a niche field. It was hard to find labs that I knew I would work well with. So I tried to go through the process of actually applying to Penn and working out a deal there. They don't currently have a really great inlet for psychology students wanting to do research with their dogs. They just don't have a professor there at the Working Dog Center that would be able to advise students. I tried to create something and it didn't work. It's just hard because it's such a big university. So I was really blessed to be able to find Auburn and that Dr. Katz was accepting students, because what I found is that I would find labs and I would reach out to the advisors and they wouldn't be accepting students. They'd be full, they're busy, they're doing projects that they don't need students for. So the hardest thing was probably just finding a lab, finding someone who's doing research I'm interested in, and, finding them having students. But in the end, I ended up only applying to 2 schools, which is really not a lot at all. I would, but it was only because I couldn't find any other ones. So that was probably the hardest thing, was finding a way to apply to labs that were accepting, that were doing research I wanted to do.
So how much time did you take to find the schools, the program that you knew? Because
Right.
it seems like, since it's a niche, it seems like it took a little bit. So, and
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, like, one of the other students who might be interested in those niche programs may feel like after
Yeah.
looking and searching. So we want to have a word of encouragement. How long did it take?
It took a while. I mean, it took just kind of a couple months of just being consistent and looking and reaching out to people and waiting for responses, emailing professors back when I didn't hear back from them, kind of being just consistent and reaching out to them. The only way I found Auburn really was because I found this website, actually Canine Performance Sciences, and I reached out to one of the top directors there. I don't even remember who I reached out to. I emailed someone and I said, hey, like, do you guys have a program for grad students? And the thing with this is, specifically, a lot of these programs are associated with the vet school. So a lot of the students that work for them through their program specifically are vet students. And so I don't remember how I even found Jeff. I think I just kind of I started saying, okay, well, maybe they have a program that works with this program, so at Auburn. I think I looked up Auburn psychology program, and that's how I found Dr. Katz. And I noticed that a lot of his students did work with Canine Performance Sciences. And so I reached out to him, and he was really great. I emailed him and he called me right away, like set up a call with me. And so you kind of know, like, when you find that one program and you find that one professor that really wants to work with you, that's kind of like, okay, all the work was worth it. It was hard, but it was worth it. So you kind of just have to keep going, and you have to just try and find something that works for you.
Right. And it seems to me that persistence is a key factor. Don't get discouraged if you
Right.
keep looking but you don't quite find the perfect match.
Yes.
If you stop, if we quit searching, so obviously we are not going to find. So that
Right.
to be a very, very, very strong message you're giving. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had a process where you nailed down what you wanted to do, and that took place during your, I guess, undergrad. That's where you kind of morphed your ideas. But then, as you were doing that, you started collecting all these experiences and branching out and networking, and with persistency, you were able to get into the program you were so wishing for. Now, I'm sure you're taking interesting classes, right? Classes that you have never taken before as an undergrad student. Can you tell us about some of those interesting classes you're taking?
Yeah.
Something that was totally new to you, and now you're finding yourself really passionate about.
Yeah. So I think the biggest transition was transitioning from biology to psychology, because I thought it would be, a pretty easy transition, but there is a lot of lingo, specifically in the cognitive psychology field, which is what my lab mainly deals with, comparative cognition.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a very detailed field, a lot of just kind of jargon that comes along with it, a lot of processing that comes with it, something you think you kind of just understand and but there's so much research that goes into every field. Something as simple as learning, is such a detailed field of research. And so that was one of the most interesting classes I actually took with my advisor my first semester, was cognitive psychology, and just kind of getting a really great introduction into the field. I took a 2-semester stats class. That was really great because I learned, I kind of got to build off of all of the stats I learned about in undergrad. But then this past semester, we did a lot of work with regression, which is something I hadn't had as much previous research with. So I really enjoyed learning more about that. And this past semester, I also took a higher education class because Auburn offers a really awesome opportunity to do a higher education certificate. So when I graduate, I have the certificate saying that even though, I got a degree in research, I am certified to be able to teach well. I don't just know my field, I also know how to teach. So I took a class about how to teach adults that have certain disadvantages, whether it's learning disability or low income levels, something is, very a variety of different situations. And that I really enjoyed that class because it's different than my research, but it helped me kind of learn how it is to be a good teacher and to, teach all sorts of students. So.
Right. And at the end, even if you decide to stay in research, I like to say that science is 50% research, 50% communication. And so there we go. Getting a certificate that helps you become a good teacher automatically helps you to become a better scientific communicator. You never know who is going to come to your conferences and your presentations. So you need to be able to connect. So it's
Right.
very good to hear about the breadth of the program. And I'm sure as you're taking these classes, you're sitting beside people that may be getting the same doctoral degree, but they may be doing totally different researches. So
Yeah.
that's surely another growth experience right there.
Yes.
So I have just one more question, and then if you have anything else you want to share, feel free. But let's say somebody is watching our video right now, and this is somebody that never heard about your field of expertise and now is in love with it. So what is a 1, 2, 3 step plan that you would suggest this person to take?
Yeah, so I would say start volunteering at any place you probably could. Like I got my start volunteering with walking dogs at the local humane society. I had never owned a dog in my life. My mom actually talks late now. She's like, I was scared because you were going to work with these dogs and you had no idea what you were doing. And I really didn't. I had no idea what I was doing. And so after that, that got me a job working at a kennel, and that led to a better daycare kennels environment. So I kind of just started stepping up with these, every single job I've had has been working with animals. And so I kind of just realized this is where I need to be. Like, I don't need to settle. Like, I need to go for these jobs. And you need to kind of, experience the different fields. Like, I wouldn't have known that I would want to work with dogs for the rest of my life if I hadn't done exotics, so I needed to kind of have that zoo experience to know, yes, like I love exotics, but I really want to work with dogs for the rest of my life. So, figure out something in your local area that you can get plugged into right now. Start making a list of internships that you can do the next summer, because I know like when I applied for my Penn internship, it was probably in October or November, so you have to make sure you're on top of those dates for when internships are applications end, and start looking. If you're graduating and you want to start looking for programs, start doing that now, and reaching out to advisors and asking them if they're going to be taking students or not. So
yeah, that's very helpful. I had no idea. As far as human dog relationship, you're a late bloomer. I had no idea. I thought you grew up with dogs.
Nope. Never had a dog in my life until I moved to Penn, and I fostered one of the dogs at Penn that now has a job doing wilderness detection. So,
but you were telling me you have a cat right now, right? How does that work?
She's right here. I don't have any dogs right now. But yeah.
She's taking a nap.
She is taking a nap. Yep.
I see. All right. Is there anything else you want to share with your audience, with our audience?
I think that's it. I think just if you're interested in the field, just start looking for opportunities that you can get involved in.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, this was great, Jordan. It was nice to connect with you after, I believe, almost 1 year.
Yeah.
Because you started in 2019, right?
Right, yeah.
Your doctoral program. So it was very nice to reconnect and to hear some news. I knew obviously about the program you are enrolled in, but hearing from you about some of the details of the classes you're taking and how the past experiences have helped you shape the path you are at right now, you're walking right now, was very great. And I'm sure it's going to be very inspirational and very refreshing to a number of the people that we will be watching the video. So thank you very much, and let's stay in touch. We look forward for you graduating in 2024, something
like that. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Jordan, and I wish the best for you as you finish up, as you wrap up.
Thank you so much. Good to talk to you, Dr. A.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It was an exciting afternoon talking to Jordan. She's presented us a career path that's very unique, from biology, from zoo and wildlife biology, from exotic animals to training dogs. But from the psychology and behavioral science, and using also cutting edge technologies like MRI and some of those advanced techniques and methods. So very glad you were able to follow us and take a look at this other interesting career opportunity. And I hope you stay in touch with Career Path 101. I hope to see you soon again.